how do we get that message out to the rest of the planet?
Well, it's hard because every time I say it, then I get hate mail, I get all kinds of these guys that think I should, continue to age quickly. And so they chopped off a part of my nose, so that process is underway.
They start with the nose. Ben, what were you going to say?
No, I think, for almost everybody here, you'll have one or two teachers who played that, for me it was my mother, but a couple of teachers in my school who played that seminal role in sparking that curiosity, that desire to learn more, right? And that's unbelievably valuable, I think. And for the people who don't encounter that, it's a huge loss. And I think part of that happens because teachers are overburdened. They come into teaching wanting to do that connection with the student. And then they find that they have to do a whole host of other things that are not connected to that, that connection with the student. So I think that magical moment, I think people are fundamental.
But now imagine that we move teachers into almost exclusively that role.
Yeah.
You took the Nurse Cratchit teachers and moved them away, and then in that role, the teacher becomes these learning empowerers. And the students have these unbelievable tools that they're also working with. We could think about, you've got to upgrade the role of teachers. We've got to expand the role of the teacher and the professor. We've got to upgrade and skill and enhance the way that people are learning. Increase the compensation for these teachers, all kinds of things. We've got it all down to too low of a level right now. We need to enhance the level of learning.
So you're both at a point where you could do pretty much whatever you want and focus on the problems that you think are most important. And you've got an audience here of educators, of investors, of technologists, inventors. The entire educational ecosystem is sort of at this conference, which is why it's always so much fun to be here. So tell us in our last few remaining moments what you're dreaming about, what you'd love to accomplish, and how this team out here can help participate with you.
So I think from my perspective, the learning has always been something that's been seen as difficult. I think that's difficult for the teacher as well as for the student. I think if all of you can build the tools to create a tutor, a TA for every teacher, that can enable the empowering of the teaching side of it, right? And on the student side of it, I think there are all of these barriers to actually understanding. So what's happening in Google is we have a lot of people coming with curiosity, and curiosity is kind of unbounded and that gets killed when there are no answers or there are poor answers to it. And so if we can transform that curiosity into learning by making that learning a little easier, by A, you can ask questions, but B, you can find better ways to do that learning. Now, some of that happens with these amazing creators we have on YouTube, because they find that way to reach you that you could never have before. And I don't work in physics at all anymore, but I watch YouTube videos and I go, that's how that works. And that's one creator has found a way to break through to my brain, how that particular concept can be intuitive. Now, if we can do that more broadly, make it so that when you encounter a new concept, you intuitively grasp it fully. We can turn that curiosity into much deeper learning. And I think that's not just a goal for Google, but I think it should be a goal for all of education technology to actually bridge that, to make learning so easy that the amount of learning that happens in the world just grows exponentially. So people are much more powerful.
It's very powerful.
So it's kind of strange. So one of the greatest orators in the United States in the last 200 years was Frederick Douglass, and so you can read his speeches and read his books and read his writings, and he never went to a day of school in his entire life. He was taught to read under penalty of death, both to his personage and the person that taught him, and yet he became philosophically enriched with a deep understanding of really complicated subjects that people major in college. Well, how did he do that? He did that because of his motivation, he did that because of what he was driven towards, and so forth and so on. And so what I'm still driven by is how do we find a way to find the interest and the talent and the trajectory of each individual person and empower that? Because right now we still have people saying, well, Billy, you're not going to be that good of a student, and so you can drop out of high school by your own choice at age 16. Condemning Billy to a life of unbelievable complexity going forward. And in the United States, we still allow that. Billy can drop out of high school at 16 and be done. We have people that are not able to personalize or build their own identities. We have people, we still have a world where we think that math is a hard subject, and all our teachers say it's hard, and no one wants to take it, and we have a cultural bias to not learn it. The English language is infinitely more complicated than integral calculus. Infinitely more complicated. Yet somehow we find a way to learn that. Somehow we find a way to learn that without having our brains filled with concepts and words, that we don't comprehend. So what we have to find a way to do is to empower learning and the empowerment of the learning individual to really maximize human potential. We're still operating with unbelievable achievement. We're still way below our potential. Who knows where we could end up if we got more people, more creative, more dynamic. We have a $100 trillion, $150 trillion economy on the planet. What about a $10,000 trillion economy on the planet? How do we get that? How do we do those things? How do we make these things? How do we literally drive these things forward? And so right now in the United States, you can still predict educational outcomes based on a person's zip code. You give me their zip code and I can give you a probabilistic assessment with some accuracy of the outcome. Well then, therefore, we are idiots. We have to figure this out, and we've got to figure it out, and this is what I'm focused on.
Well, I can't imagine